one presence of love surrounds and embraces us. We are adored and celebrated and loved beyond measure, and sometimes we allow ourselves to feel it. So let's take a deep breath into that idea, that awareness. Beyond all world events, beyond heartbreaking circumstances, beyond the choices that beloveds make that are confusing to us. You take a deep breath into this awareness that the one presence surrounds and holds and embraces us in every moment. And so we open our hearts and our minds to feel that. As the song said this morning, everything we need to know is available to us. Everything we need to know in this moment is available to us. We may not know the entire map, but we can know the next right and perfect step at this moment. In this moment, we can take a deep breath into this idea of speaking peace into a world where so many are feeling conflict and turmoil within individual hearts and minds and within world governments. We speak peace. We breathe peace. We think peace. If Jesus could speak to the stormy sea and with his words calm the waters, peace be still, then we too can speak peace into our lives, events, moments of feeling confused, heartbroken, dismayed. We can still speak peace and be peace and express peace. Even when those around us are hurting, even when those around us are facing many difficulties, even when our lives are shaken, we can still breathe peace. We open our hearts and our minds in this moment. And for all that we're holding in our hearts, we lift our world community, governments, world leaders, our communities, our children and grandchildren, our friends and family. We lift them in our thoughts and hold them in the most highest place of peace and love, the most highest form of prayer, to know these beloveds in our world as beautifully made, beautifully created. We have the capacity to know our divinity. And so we breathe into that for ourselves and for all of our world community. And if you would like to say out loud right now a name, a word, a phrase about things that you're holding in prayer, please do that now, and loudly enough for us to hear and join with you. All those beloveds, all the prayers spoken and unspoken, We join our prayer consciousness, the consciousness of our love, the consciousness of our peace. We may not know all the answers, but we do know this answer. We are wonderfully made. And we have within us the capacity to know in every moment the next right and perfect step. Peace, peace, peace. And we say, so it is, and so we let it be. Amen, our women and our children. And namaste. We've covered all the bases. Good morning. So we've got a lot of people out traveling today, and our dear Anton broke his knee out here. So once again, we need that scooter. We need a quick scooter. He has it. Oh, that's right. And Dan's son was diagnosed with pneumonia. So for all of our beloveds, healing, peace, regeneration, body, mind, spirit. So we want to talk today about this idea of speaking peace in a world of conflict. So it's how's everybody doing with that? 100% on a scale of 1 to 10. We're all just speaking peace. Good? Well, then we can go to the beach. So, back to this lovely woman, Paseng Lamu Sherpa Akita. Everybody see that real fast? No. So her whole life prepared her for this moment when 8,800 people were killed in the earthquake in 2015. People displaced from their homes. Ancient trails through the mountains totally covered by landslides. And she had already made a name for herself as a climber. What her country recognizes her for most now is what she did after the earthquake. And I want to just tap into some of that energy, if we can today. And also, I forgot to recognize somebody who's here. He's not his first time, but the man behind the curtain this morning is James Taylor. Welcome, James. James is from Hilton Head Unity. He lives in Bluffton, and he is our Canuga videographer. He's a photographer. You may have seen some of his things on Facebook. So he's here today to film. What? Philosopher, photographer, writer, videographer, and he's here today to film and hopefully get a little snippet for our Canuga Unity Conference promotion. So thank you, James. So I want to tap in a little bit to this energy, because I know y'all will never do this, but every now and then I have an idea, a thought that goes something like this. I don't know what to do. I don't know what next step to take. I don't know how we're supposed to do that. And I'm thinking, if she can kick in immediately and start charting out the new paths for people to get, for them to get to people who needed help, I mean, we can do anything. And I love the first words that she said to her husband. We can do this. Their home was gone. They made new trails across landslides. They organized hundreds of people to deliver food and supplies to people who were isolated and trapped. I want to tap into that energy because sometimes I feel like I don't know what the heck to do. Right? Do you ever feel that? I'm the only one. I need an intervention. Okay. So this is the kind of energy that I want to tap into because right now in the world, I keep running across news reports and events and things happening in the world, and I think, how are we going to get through this one? And how are we going to overcome this thing? And how is good going to come out of this? And how are we going to come through this particular moment in history? And then I feel my ancestors talking with me saying, you can do this. you've got a whole lot of wisdom within the coding of your DNA. Just tap into that. We can call it universal mind. We can call it God. We can call it consciousness of Christ. We've got to remember the capacity that we have within us to know how to move through days that can feel disturbing and heartbreaking. And this would be a really good time to say amen. Amen. Okay. Paula, you're not doing it well. Okay. So here's what we know how to do. We know how to make new trails. We know how to think outside the box. We know how to tap into creative mind to consider and receive information that we may not have thought of before. We know how to speak peace. It's a form of prayer, really. It's a form of prayer to speak peace into a situation before you see the peaceful outcome. It's a form of prayer to know and claim your divine nature and then show up and say, what do I need to do? Where do I need to build the trail? Where do I need to deliver the food? Where do I need to go get somebody out from underneath the rubble? It's a divine capacity that we have. This is the consciousness that we're called to observe from, pray from, speak from, plan from, because I confess to you, and please don't let it leave this room, I confess to you that sometimes before I think about forging a new trail, I can talk myself into thinking I have no pickaxe to form a trail with. I have no machete to bushwhack my way through the jungle. And then I remember who I am, and I remember I have capacities within me to know how to create a new trail if we need to. Have y'all ever had these thoughts? Of course you have. So, is there conflict in the world? Yes. Is there struggle? Yes. There's going to be confusion, especially when we have a conflict of ideas. There's going to be some confusion. So how do we show up and speak peace even when there's confusion? James, tell me if I'm moving around too much.
I like you just the way you are.
Oh, no. We have this here to remind me to stay in a certain zone, and I realize I keep moving away from it. So I want to tell you a story about someone. Some of you have heard this story, but it's a really great story, so listen again. I keep getting, what about you? You have these life events, and do you find that through the years you keep getting more teaching out of the life events? It's like it's not just a one-time deal. Go back and read your own books. There's good stuff. Go back and read your own journals. There's really good stuff. So Ida Mae Hill spoke peace in the midst of a really scary experience. And I got to be a part of it. And it was around 1955, 56, something like that. I was 7, 8 years old. And I would often, she worked in our home. She cooked and cleaned and took care of Pam and me. And she often would take us home with her on the bus. And my mother would pick us up after she got off work. Well, you know what was going on in the South in the mid-50s. And I would always ride in the back of the bus with Ida Mae. I didn't think anything about it. But on this particular day, boarding this particular bus, this particular moment in Jacksonville, Florida, there was a lot of conflictive energy, a lot of confusion, and we were boarding the bus, and the bus driver said to me, "Little lady, you can sit at the front of the bus." Now, he didn't exactly look like this, but but the energy felt like this. Now, imagine being a 7 or 8 year old kid looking up into this kind of face. And he told me I could sit at the front of the bus. So Ida Mae said something to me that keeps impacting me. It's not just a one-time deal. It's a present moment teaching that applies every second. She said, "Child, sit where love is." And you know where I went? I went to the back of the bus. The back of the bus, they were telling stories and they were singing gospel songs. In the back of the bus, there was love, and there was hope, and there was courage, and there was resolve. And in the front of the bus, there were a whole lot of angry white people. Why would a child sit there? So that's the lesson right now in trying to understand the heartbreaking things in our lives and other people's lives in the world. Take a deep breath and sit where love is. And we're going to have to take a whole lot of deep breaths to keep revisiting where we're going to sit in our thoughts and in our actions. Where are we going to sit? Are we going to sit with the really angry, I mean hateful energy, or are we going to keep practicing sitting where love is? You know, I had a dream about Sai Baba years ago. And we're standing on the bank of the St. John's River where Dee and Tom just were. I was standing on the bank of the St. John's River, and I was watching all of my possessions float down the river. They were floating north. That's one of the rivers in the world that runs north. I'm just watching all my stuff bobbing up and down the river. And Sai Baba walked up and stood beside me, and he's watching with me. He said, wow, that's a lot of stuff. We got a lot of stuff to let go of in order to access the place where we can speak peace. I have a lot of stuff to let go of. It's bobbing up and down the river. Stuff like what? Fear, anger, resentment. We got a lot of stuff. So what do I have to let go of in order to access the place where I can speak peace into a world of conflict? I have to do some inner work. Dang. I have to do some inner work. Amen. We have to do our inner work in order to access that place. Otherwise, we talk ourselves out of the capacity to speak peace. Don't we? I do. I talk myself out of the capacity to speak peace. Oh, it's so much easier to whine and moan and complain. So what Ida did, she declared truth. And she fixed attention on truth. At 7, 8 years old, I knew what truth felt like. That felt true. Always go towards what feels true. And of course, it always gets confirmed for you in some way. So Jesus, you know, I wasn't there. Well, I don't know. Maybe I wasn't there as far as I know, but this is an extraordinary story, and it's applicable to my life, and it might be applicable to yours. Upsetting things happen. Have you noticed? Yes. Confusion takes over sometimes. Have you noticed? Yes. So he's sleeping in the bottom of the boat. Have you ever slept in the bottom of a boat? It's very calm. It's like sleeping on a train, you know. It can be calming, of course, unless there's a hurricane. So it's calming. He's asleep. He's getting some rest. Goodness, he needed some rest. And there's a big storm raging, and the disciples are afraid, and that's what happens. We get very afraid in our thoughts. Disciples are the thoughts. We get very afraid. And so the Christ consciousness comes up to the disciples, and he looks around. Can't you people do anything? You know, I was resting. I needed that nap. Okay, let me show you how to do this. He spoke to the storm. Peace, be still. When I've got a storm going on, do I have the capacity to speak the words that create peace so that I can make my decisions from that place? If I'm making my decisions from confusion and fear, I'm just going to create more of what? Storm. I have to speak peace. Everybody say that together. Peace, be still. It's so simple, right? It might take a few times. How many of you in this room have ever felt like you impacted the weather or impacted a circumstance with your words, your prayers, your presence, your thoughts? This would be a really good time to pull that skill forward. proven with kinesiology.
Speaking the word peace is one of the highest vibrations.
Speaking the word peace.
Speaking of the word peace, P-E-A-C-E, peace. I calm another person, and it's been proven with kinesiology.
Absolutely.
So let's take a deep breath into that. The research shows that words have power, and words come with energy. Peace. Peace beyond all human understanding. You can do it with animals, you can do it with the weather, but I would love to see us do it more with our emotions and our thoughts and our old beliefs and our old myths and our old prejudices and our old fears. Just something to do while you have free time on your hands. So, Buddha Brain. We did this book a few years ago. This is one of the things this book says. Research shows every time you sift, everybody remember what a sifter is?
Yes.
Every time you sift positive feelings and views into painful, limiting states of mind, you build a little bit of new neural structure. In other words, you're building new neural pathways through the old forest of your old thoughts and beliefs. Over time, accumulated impact, synapse by synapse, our brains are changed. Now, we did a whole book. This is just one little snippet from the book. But the idea is press on, keep practicing, speaking peace. You know, I might do it really well today, peace, 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 all is well. And tomorrow I might walk over the edge and into the abyss, and one of you are going to have to be holding me in prayer. So we have to keep practicing, don't we?
Yes.
Peace, peace, peace. Sifting. I have a sifter that looks just like that. Do y'all still have yours? Eloquent proclamations. This is what Charles Fillmore taught about affirmations. He called them eloquent proclamations of spiritual truth. Think about that. Eloquent proclamations of spiritual truth. That's what we got to reach for. So we're in the moment of confusion. We pull out our manual, eloquent declarations and proclamations of peace and truth. No, we don't have time to pull out the manual. We got to practice it enough so we have it on the ready. We hear an upsetting news report. Peace practice is on the ready. We hear an upsetting story about a beloved near or far. We have to be ready to access the peace. So eloquent proclamations, Charles Fillmore says, of spiritual truth release millions of electrons in our brain cells and through them blend like chords of mental music with the mind universal.
Yep.
This is before Buddha Brain was written. This is before Larry Dossey came out with his mind-body. This is before Herb Benson wrote his books on mind-body connection. Charles Fillmore was saying, here's the deal. You can create new neural pathways for peace. You can change your brain. There it is right there. You can blend with the mental music of the divine. I mean, that's poetry. He tapped into something. Fillmore tapped into a revelation. And before him, many others. Jesus tapped into a revelation. He tapped into the revelation of who he is. And by a show of hands, have we tapped into the revelation of who we are? Sometimes. Wait, so the hand goes up and down. So, here's 3 things for us to remember. They sang the song about it this morning. We didn't get together on that particular song, but there it is again, a divine setup. Everything I need to know is available to me through divine mind. Let's all read that together. Everything I need to know is available to me through divine mind. So, is there any part of that sentence that says, except, no, everything. Everything we need to know. That is something to practice knowing, because when the going gets tough, this is a really good thing to remember. In this moment, I don't see the whole map. I can't even see the first step, but I know I have access to it. Yeah.
That's through the heart.
Through the heart. I make good choices for me and others. It's what the book we just did from the Dalai Lama, Ethics for a New Millennium. Our choices in the compassionate heart and the divine mind always has the whole community in mind when we make our choices. Care for yourself and care for others. Right? Basic. Basic. And number 3, I know that the universe is unfolding as it should, even if it's hard to see in this particular moment. So let's take a deep breath. Current news. Current events. Still dealing with history. All over the planet, in this country alone, still dealing with the wounded history of this land that we're living on. Let's read number 3 with that in mind. I know that the universe is unfolding as it should, even if it's hard to see in that moment. Love is working all things together for our good, for our awakening, for our unfoldment. That's something to practice knowing and trusting. And then we get our feet moving and we take action. Charles Fillmore said this: I fairly sizzle with zeal and enthusiasm and spring forth with a mighty faith to do the things that ought to be done by me. Did y'all all get up this morning and say that? Let's all read this and read it with a little bit of zeal, as if you're in front of an audience. Okay. I fairly sizzle with zeal and enthusiasm and spring forth with a mighty faith to do the things that ought to be done by me. Woo! Woo! Whoa! And he was 92 when he said it. There are no excuses. There are no excuses. The words are alive. They're words of life. He called forth in his imagination this idea. My cells are listening. My DNA coding can be awakened when I affirm the capacities that dwell within me. That's what an affirmation is. An affirmation of aliveness, life, this with Godness, the enthusiasm, the Christ mind, the creative mind, that gets tapped into and unlocked and set free.
It's the feeling.
It's the feeling.
You gotta connect it to the feeling.
Gotta
Just saying
connect
the
it
words
to
are
the
not
feeling.
gonna do it. It's gotta come from the heart. The heart actually controls the brain and the mind, and it all works in synergy. Okay.
Everybody know Paula? And this is, we have an aspect of our own minds where the energy of Apollo lives. Let's just think about that a minute. We have our committee meetings, and there's usually somebody around the committee table that says, it's gonna be bad. It's gonna be really bad. It's never gonna get better. It's really bad. There's gonna be somebody in your mind, somebody in that committee meeting saying, oh, you're never gonna get out of this pickle. You've done it now. And then there's a part of you, Apollo, that pops up and says, oh no, research shows that if I will speak peace into this moment of conflict, I can have an effect on the outcome. I can impact the energy of this moment by speaking peace. That's the voice you want to pay attention to. I don't know if you want her living in your head all the time. She's a but she does sing some mean blues and jazz. However, we all have an aspect of us like Apollo, who says, oh, okay, I know it looks bad. I know it looks confusing. And I know you can't see your way out of this right now. But if you speak peace into this moment, you're going to be more available to that capacity within you to know the next right perfect step. Speak peace. And we're going to listen to that part of us. Right? Yes. Okay. Let's take a deep breath. And we are going to close this service for today. just want to pause and give thanks for all of the Ida Mae Hills in our lives. The grandmothers, the teachers, the mothers and fathers and aunties and uncles and neighbors and friends, grandparents. Anyone in your life, a mentor, a teacher, anyone with whom you shared a moment that was so valuable that it still is with you, teaching you. That's how you know when you've touched into truth, because the words, the energy stay alive throughout your life, and you can keep tapping back into that moment. That moment will continue to teach you. For all of those people in our lives, and all of the presence of life around us, sometimes it's our animals, our four-legged, sometimes it's nature that instructs us, and there's a moment that you carry with you your entire life because it's so full of truth and life and light. So my prayer this morning, my hope is that we all can tap into those moments that are still alive within us to instruct us now in this moment of next right steps. Next right steps of prayer and meditation and speaking peace, being a presence of love, holding in our hearts the highest and best for our world, for all life, the waters and the air, the rivers, all life. We speak peace. From that place, we listen and know what is ours to do. What a holy and sacred moment this is. It is a holy and sacred moment. And it's a really good time to speak peace. So we take a deep breath into that. We are so grateful to remember this, and we give thanks. We say, so it is. So let it be. Peace, peace, peace. Namaste. And as we used to do in our namaste, as we used to do in my charismatic church, please turn to someone and say, peace be with you. And you know what to do after that. Peace be with you. Peace be with you.